There's a photograph of you stored somewhere that you haven't opened in years. A drawer, a shoebox at the back of the closet, a lost folder inside your phone, among thousands of other images you'll never look at again. Have you ever stood in front of an old photograph of yourself and felt something strange? It's not exactly nostalgia. It's something else entirely. You look at that face, that body, that expression, and a question arises, almost without words. Who was that person? And the strangest thing isn't the question. It's realizing that somehow you're still here, looking. The person in the photograph has changed. The face has changed. The thoughts of that time no longer exist. The certainties of then have crumbled silently, one by one, without a funeral. But something remained. Something that isn't in the photograph. Something that was looking through those eyes and continues to look now through yours. This question is not about the past. It's about now. Because if you stop just for a moment and realize that you are reading these words, who is actually noticing that? Not the name you use, not the story you tell about yourself. When someone asks, "Who are you?" Something quieter, something that was there before the first memory, and that will continue to be there after the last. Most of life is lived within an identity that was never truly chosen. It was assembled, piece by piece, a childhood comment that became a belief, a comparison that turned into a wound, someone else's expectation that over time you came to confuse with your own voice. And from that constructed identity, you began to interpret everything, every relationship, every failure, every silence from someone you loved. Everything began to be read through a lens you didn't even know you were using. And the most curious thing is this: you've never seen the lens. You only saw the world through that is. There is a difference between living life and to observe life being lived. Most people spend entire decades stuck in their first experience, so fused with their own thoughts that they never realize there is a second possibility. Thoughts arise. You become the thought. An emotion arises. You become the emotion. A painful memory returns. You become the pain again, as if it were happening now for the first time. And so, one's entire life can pass within a succession of identifications without there ever being a space to ask, who is feeling this? Notice something simple. You can observe a thought. If you can observe it, you cannot be the thought, because that which observes and that which is observed can never be the same thing. You can observe an emotion rising in the body, the tightness in the chest, the heat in the face, the tension in the shoulders. If you can observe that emotion, you are not the emotion. You are what you perceive her to be. And if you can observe even your own history, the facts, the wounds, the roles you've learned to play, then perhaps the most honest question you can ask yourself is this: if I can see all of that, what exactly are you seeing? Most people look for answers outside of themselves, in books, in people, in external validations that promise, for a moment, to alleviate the feeling that something is missing, an opinion from another person that confirms you are right, a number of followers suggests that you matter, a relationship that promises to complete what seems incomplete inside. And for a while it works, until it stops working, because no external confirmation can reach the source of the question. The question doesn't originate in the mind. She is born in a quieter space, a space that the mind cannot touch, because it is precisely this space that observes the mind. Imagine, for a moment, a dark room. Inside it, a movie screen. The images they pass, scenes of joy, scenes of loss, faces that no longer exist, places that have changed, versions of themselves that have already dissolved. The screen is constantly changing. The images appear and disappear, but there is something in the room that never changes. The space that allows the projection to take place, the light that shines through the film. Without this space, without this light, no image could exist. And yet, nobody pays any attention to her. Everyone is mesmerized by the film. You are that light, not the movie. The identity you call I, your thoughts, history, opinions, fears, certainties, all of that is the film. It's real, in the sense that it happens, but he is not the one watching. And here's the point that changes everything, silently, without any effort. The reality you experience doesn't originate from the movie. It is born from the light that projects it. This signifies something profound about how the experience is generated. It's not the world outside that determines who you are. It is who you are at the quietest level, before any thought, that determines how the world appears to you. Consciousness does not react to reality. She gives birth to it. Every perception arrives already filtered through an identity, and each identity, in turn, is born from an even deeper level, that which observes its own identity being formed. Change the observer, and the observed reality changes with it, not because external facts magically transform themselves, but because spring, the way in which facts are interpreted, is no longer the same. Stop for a moment and realize this. You don't need to go anywhere to find this awareness. She is not hidden. She is not far away. She is currently doing the only job she has never stopped doing since before her earliest memory: witnessing. She witnessed his childhood. He witnessed every version of himself that has died and been reborn over the years. He witnessed the days when you felt invincible and the days when you could barely get out of bed. And through it all, she never changed. She is the only fixed point in a lifetime of movement. There's something liberating about that, not as a dramatic relief, but as a silent, almost imperceptible loosening. If the observed identity is not who you really are, so the wounds that this identity carries are not permanent either. They happened. They are real as experiences, but they are not the foundation of your existence. They are content, and the content can be observed, felt, even healed, without this affecting what has always been observed. Pain belongs in the film. Peace belongs to the light. Perhaps you've felt this way before, at some rare point in your life, without knowing what to name it. A moment when time seemed to stand still, perhaps facing the sea, or in the middle of a deep conversation, when words suddenly seemed unnecessary, or in an unexpected silence between two breaths, when for a second you thought of nothing, and yet you were completely present. At that moment, you weren't thinking about consciousness. You were the consciousness, without intermediaries. And that's exactly where this video points to. Not for a concept, for a direct experience. The same one that is already happening. Right now, as these words pass through your attention, the identity you build throughout your life, likes to feel solid. She needs a continuous narrative to sustain herself. This happened, then this, then that, and that's how I became who I am. But notice, this story only exists in the mind, being retold now. The past does not exist anywhere except in present memory. The future does not exist anywhere but in the present imagination. Everything that has ever existed or will ever exist can only be touched from one place, this moment. And this moment does not belong to identity. It belongs to the consciousness that observes it. Therefore, changing your life never begins with changing your circumstances. It begins by changing the point from which circumstances are experienced. Two people can go through the exact same loss, the same failure, the same new beginning, and emerge from completely different experiences because the consciousness witnessing each of them was not in the same place. One was bearing witness from a place of fear, the other based on presence. And the difference between these two realities wasn't in the facts. It was in the hands of those who were observing them. Perhaps the most important question anyone can ask themselves is not what I want in life. Perhaps it's simpler and at the same time more profound. Who are you observing this question? Because all true change begins there, not in the answer, in the origin from where the question is asked. A wounded identity asks questions stemming from fear and finds only answers that confirm that fear. A present consciousness asks the same question from a different place, and what it finds is no longer the same. Go back for a moment to that photograph. The person in her no longer exists as you knew her. Her face changed. Her certainties changed. The world around her changed. And yet, something remained silently through each version, through each loss, through each new beginning. That something is not in the photograph. It never was. He is exactly where he is now, observing. You are not the story that is told about you. You are not the sum of your wounds, nor your achievements, nor the opinions that others have formed about you over the years. You are the silent space where all of this appears and continues to appear without ever needing anything to continue existing. This presence does not need to be achieved. She just needs to be noticed, and in the instant it is noticed, even if only for a second, something settles, not because a problem has been solved, but because, finally, someone has stopped looking outside for what had never left within. So, before this video ends, just do this. Don't think, just understand. Realize that you are here now, reading or listening to these words. Notice that there is something that perceives this perception, and realize that this something, silent, present, unchanging, never needed an explanation to exist. He just needed to be remembered. The question this video began with is still open. Perhaps she will never need to be answered with words. Who's watching? Not the mind that interprets, not history repeating itself. Something quieter than that. Something that was here before the first question, and it will continue to be here long after the last answer.